pride has been used to indoctrinate people, including children, into excesses so grotesque that it should be fully rejected. Intech Q-Tips says, Utah state law is now prohibiting pride flags in school, but allows Nazi and Confederate flags in school. No! Oh my God! Fuck you! We don't care what you think. Fuck you! People that wanted to indoctrinate your kid to castrate themselves and think that they were evil because they were white or because they were heterosexual are now upset that people got pissed and are pushing back against it. Fuck you! You fucking child mutilators! That's not fair! We wanted our child mutilation flags there! You fucking sad sacks of shit! Oh, I'm sorry, I feel bad. By the way, it's going to be a show with a lot of swearing and a lot of antagonism to a lot of members of this chat. Yeah, we don't want your bullshit trans flags there. If you're real pissed off about Confederate flags, take it to court, baby. And if you lose, you lose. We have to trust the courts, right? Always got to trust the courts. No matter what, you got to trust the courts. We can't attack the judiciary, right? What did the Nazis do again? What did they do? Man, they sound like real fucking terrible people. How much influence do they have in our government right now, in our culture? Oh, that's right, none. What about the child mutilating trans fucking cult? Oh, they're all through our schools? How many teachers do we have proudly declaring that they're Nazis? I'm for firing each one of them. Cool. Now you for firing all the ones that are proudly claiming they're transgender? Cool? Yeah, go fuck yourself. You know what? I also don't hear them complaining about Coney 2012. How about that? You know, they're not saying anything about people that are wearing Pol Pot shirts either. Oh my God. Slow down, not okay. I don't believe you, one. I don't believe what you're saying. I don't believe that the courts ruled that said that Nazi flag is perfectly acceptable, but the transgender. I bet if I look into that case, you're misreading it or you're just blatantly full of shit. The far bigger threat at this point is the transgender cult because it is so prolific within our schools. So it is a far bigger threat. If we had avowed Nazi teachers running around all the time, proudly displaying Nazi flags for their classrooms, I would say absolutely that's something that needs to be dealt with, that we need to look into. That isn't the case right now. My guess is probably what it said was it dealt specifically with the fact that there were teachers flying trans flags and things like that. And then one of the argument that the shit people like you that are pretending to not be cool with the trans shit, but you're full of shit. You're a fucking bullshitter. You're an equivocator. You're making defenses for the people that want that shit in our classrooms. That's why you bring up this, but they allow Nazi flags. Probably made some argument that said, but this kid had a band that had a Nazi symbol on his shirt, and that was allowed. Why was he allowed to have that? And they probably said something to the effect of, well, it's different when it is a student displaying something versus when it is the teacher displaying this shit, indoctrinating it into their children. That's my guess. I'll bet you're misrepresenting the case. I have no love for Nazis. Fuck them. The people that run around screaming Jew, 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 I think they're fucking sad and pathetic. And link me the article. Here we go. Let's start off good. Nazi flags can fly in Utah schools, but not pride flags, GOP lawmakers say. New bill would allow for Nazi and Confederate flags. Confederate flags should be allowed to be displayed in some instances in Utah schools and government buildings, but pride flags be banned. Note to readers, it was amended hours after the story was published. Oh boy! Looks like you were wrong. They already amended. An ongoing fight in Utah to ban pride flags in schools is entered new territory Thursday after Representative Trevor Lee proposed new legislation. So it didn't pass. It was proposed legislation. Lie number one by Intex QPs. Yes, I could also get outraged on any proposed legislation that one person proposed in any state level. I could. But apparently that's the big issue, that this trans defender into... What's your name again? Let's make sure we get the trans defender's name right. Into Q-tips. He's into Q-tips, all right. Notice how, so the big story here, the big breaking story that this dude had to come in. He doesn't support the trans agenda, but the big story he had to bring in. They're allowing this in Utah. They're allowing it. My God, they're allowing it. Because one state level representative proposed this. Hasn't passed or anything like that. Okay, let's go on. Proposed legislation to ban flags, not just in public schools, but government buildings or government properties. The bill originally applied only to schools, but an update of the bill released ahead of Thursday's House Education hearing expands the bill to all government buildings or properties. The updated bill favor recommended by the committee, with the committee's two Democrats, Hayes and Moss, casting the only nays. It will now be heard on the full House floor. Approved flags for displaying government buildings and school would include the Utah state and U.S. flags, military flags, and flags for other countries, flags for Native American tribes, and official flags for colleges and universities. The bill also allows for the flying of a historic version of a flag that is temporarily displayed for educational purpose, which include the... Oh, so you could, if you're talking about Nazis being evil and fighting them for historical education purposes, you could show that flag or the Confederate flag? Cool. We're starting to see increasingly more hostile type interactions between different political factions we have within our side. It's no different than starting to see within our education system. Our schools should be a place for children to learn, not feel like they're pushed or seen at agendas. Q-Tips would disagree with that. He wants those trans flags there. Real bad, man. It gives him a nice chubby. He's into that just like he's into Q-Tips. When the first introduced bill, Lee said in social media platform his goal was to ban pride flags. Sweet. But Nazi and Confederate flags, he told the committee Thursday, would be included in the approved flags. There are instances where in classroom you have a curriculum that is needed to use flags such as World War II, the Civil War. You may have a Nazi flag, you may have a Confederate flag. You're allowed to display it as part of the curriculum, and that's okay. Yeah, totally agree. If you're talking about the historical context of World War II, the Civil War, yes, I can understand why you would show those flags. In a phone call Thursday night, Lee disputed he ever said a Nazi flag could be displayed and argued it would not be allowed under his bill. There's a difference between displaying flags in curriculum when you're teaching on them, he said. You don't censor history here. That's not what we're doing. Yep, sounds good. The bill drew significant attention during committee hearing with dozens of people appearing in both person and online, speaking for and against the legislation. The ban's unconstitutional and serves as only a means of control over people, said Millie Dworkin. You all argue semantics, but you know this is wrong and immoral. Queer people commit suicide at a higher rate than everyone else. Allow us to indoctrinate your kid. They're not real people unless they chop off their dick, said that guy. Aaron Bolin testified in favor of the legislation, said his 10-year-old son has been offended after a pride flag was hung in the school in the computer lab. We all know that if a teacher hung up a flag with a giant picture of Jesus on it, it'd be removed immediately. Yep. Yet the pride flag sends a clear message about marriage. It also sends a message about gender, that a boy can become a girl and can become a girl, will become a boy. The message conflicts with my family's religious beliefs. Yep. The push to ban pride flags is a dramatic attempt during the legislative session last year when McKay from Riverton attempted to push through a bill that would have listed approved flags in the final enters of the session. It failed on a 9-20 vote. Asked about the new bill in the Senate availability ahead of the committee hearing, several members groaned and laughed. Flag bill again? It may have legs over here. I don't know. My caucus will remain opposed, said the Dems. Here's the updated version of the bill. The NN bill would now allow flags part of a public school district or charter school approved educational to be displayed in classroom. It was amended to allow flags part of a public school district or charter school's approved educational curriculum. It says a historic version of the flag is in accordance with the curriculum local education authority governing board approves. The bill defines flags as a usually rectangular piece of fabric placed prominent location on government property where the flag is easily visible. Sanctioned flags include the Utah and U.S. flags, as well as military flags, flags for other countries. In an interview, he denied that he ever said there could be a Nazi flag. The difference is between displaying flags in curriculum when you're teaching on them. You don't censor history. We already read that. Redact your ridiculous headline, he said, and apologize for sowing divide and spreading hate to the general public. There you go. There's the big story, everyone. Bill that hasn't even been voted on yet. The banned trans flag says if you're teaching about Nazis, it's okay to show a Nazi flag, to have a Nazi flag. If you're teaching about the Confederates, it's okay. That's different than pridefully flying a pride flag. But the guy you had spreading the misinformation about that, trust me, he's not for the trans agenda. Ooh, boy. I could see, though, why shipbird lefties would want things like that banned. For example, they don't want you talking about the origins of the KKK, right? They don't want that, the Democrat KKK. They don't want that shit, right? Can't talk about that. Who is it that's censoring history again? Pride isn't just trans. That's what it's been used to indoctrinate. We gave goodwill. I, for one, for example, support gay marriage. I have no problem with gay people whatsoever. Pride has been used to indoctrinate people, including children, into excesses so grotesque that it should be fully rejected when it comes to displaying them in our schools. I've had this argument about flags before. My favorite place to go on vacation here in Pennsylvania is Gettysburg. I call it Gettysburg. My shithead friend that's from there calls it Gettysburg. We have a long-running argument about this. I forget, I was debating someone, and they said, anyone who ever flies a Confederate flag is a racist. I was like, what about the town of Gettysburg? Like, their entire economy, well, not their entire, huge portion of their economy is tourism to tour sort of the battle. It's awesome. It's one of the coolest. It is. I've taken guided tours there. It's respectful of the North and the South. Is by no means pushing a slavery agenda. It's people that understand the historical context of the sacrifice that so many people on all sides of that battle met. It means a lot to them to keep that memory alive. Yeah, everyone should go there. It really is. It's I think it's an amazing experience, especially if you find the right guide. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. Personally, I doubt many places are going to fly a flag of a Nazi while they're teaching it. I will admit that I have seen Confederate flags in my high school while we were teaching the Civil War. And not only that, I saw a person in full Confederate uniform. The brother of one of my students in my grade was a Civil War reenactor who happened to usually reenact the South. And he dressed up in full Southern garb with the flag, the Confederate flag, in fact, several Confederate flags. And he brought his friend who dressed in full Union garb and brought several flags from the Union at the time. And then we watched the movie Gettysburg, and the dude was like a nerd in a good way and would like pause the movie all the time with the inaccuracies. Like, I'll never forget, he's like, now watch, pause right here. And the one like commander or whatever, charge, and he's like, now pause. He's like, notice his tan line has a wristwatch. You could tell that this guy was wearing a wristwatch, but actually the wristwatch wasn't invented until years later. It's like shit like that. It was pretty funny. So I would think in that context, I have no problem with the Confederate flag being there. If it was proudly displayed every day like the trans flag, then maybe that's different. The same with a Nazi flag. If a speaker wants to come in and do a speech, and he's like, I fucking killed these Nazis, and where my father killed the Nazis on fucking D-Day, and here's some of the shit that they got. Here's a Nazi uniform, here's a Nazi flag. I don't have a problem with that. It's clearly, I don't think that that's the norm, though.